welcome back to another episode of MV's VOXIFY. We're back with episode 2. My name is Danish.
And I'm Dhruv.
And we're back in spooky season, right?
Yeah. We're going for a Halloween theme.
Yeah.
I'm dressed like The Rock, the turtleneck meme.
And I'm dressed up as
Danish.
a pumpkin.
And especially for this episode, we have our friend.
We got a special guest right now.
We haven't named him anything.
So we're leaving that up to you guys to name it.
Yeah, pass me the hat.
But for now, we shall call him
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson.
Like in Castaway.
I don't even...
Yeah, Tom Hanks. Good movie.
Good movie.
Haven't
Anyways,
seen it.
so for today's episode, what are we gonna do? We are going to enlighten people.
Yeah, we're going to go over a bunch of useful stuff on how to record at home and stuff about recording at home, basically.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. You want to take us through the contents?
Alright, so first up, we got 3 things to cover. We got 1, which is the environment, your recording environment. Number 2 is your DAWs, your
Your software, basically.
digital audio
War horse.
workstation. That's the true
Digital
definition.
audio
Okay,
warehouse.
Alright. And the last thing would be, of course, the recording equipment. Because how else would you record?
Yeah, arguably the most important thing.
So let's dive right into it.
Okay, it's the first one, the recording environment.
So what makes a good recording environment, Dhruv?
So for the basics, I'm just going to say for vocalists, you need a room which has minimum reverb around. So for example, if you know, bathrooms usually have a lot of reverb in it.
Yeah.
Big rooms such as this also have quite a lot of reverb in it. Basically, to prevent this, you can cover yourself with a bed sheet
Or blanket.
or a blanket. Anything
That
works.
Yeah.
Only if you're using a mic though. If you're using a phone to record, then it doesn't make much of a difference. But the first thing is use a blanket or something to prevent your voice from being echoed around in the room.
Bounced around the walls of the room. Yeah.
If you'd like to invest in it properly, there's
Yeah.
I think it's called an ISO shield or an ISO booth. It's a semicircular thing. It prevents your reflections of the audio to go into the mic.
Yeah.
So it'll take only the direct, straight audio.
So it's kind of like an artificial soundproofing wall around your
Yeah,
microphone.
it's like a recording booth.
But of course, that is if you got the cash for it. 'cause
If you want to invest in it,
yeah,
that is.
Yeah. Anyways,
The second thing is minimizing wind movement in the room.
so you turn off your fans, your aircon, and my PS4 because it sounds like a jet engine running in my room.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's minimizing air movement will prevent all those whoosh kind of air sounds in your mic.
Also, to add on, you should definitely shut your windows and doors
Oh,
tightly.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and also another thing, if you would like, is to soundproof your room. How you're gonna do that is by getting soundproofing boards, which are basically sponges that you fix onto your walls. But of course, that also costs a little bit extra. You can use egg trays, but
You
they
have to
collect
eat a lot
dust
of eggs.
quite easily. Yeah, and you also would have to use a lot of eggs. So I think it's a bit.
Yeah, I think the things are called foam pads or foam trays. So they basically prevent the sound from being bounced around.
So you either get that or egg trays, but also note that egg trays collect dust quite easily. So you gotta
Yeah.
be dedicated to keeping it clean and dust free.
So that's for vocals. For instruments, go wild. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
As an instrumentalist myself, I can say, yeah, you can have as many things as you want because you're not recording with a mic. Unless you're recording an acoustic guitar with a mic, in which case you'd have to do everything that he said, except for the blanket thing.
Of course.
Yeah, acoustic guitars, we don't need a blanket or anything. We can work without it.
Instrumentalists, they enjoy 90% of the recording phase.
Yeah, we
compared
get
to
the luxury
vocalists.
of doing whatever we want.
Yep.
Secondly is our software, the audio software. You want to take us through a few that you know?
So I think the one that we use here in MV is Logic Pro. I think Logic Pro is one of the most like professional
Yeah.
versions of a DAW.
Yeah, it's like one of the industry standard ones.
Yes, but I think one software that we commonly use at our homes would be Reaper.
Oh yeah, Reaper is a great tool. It's free for 60 days. It's on a trial sort of basis, and then you need to buy it if you want to use it further.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great tool. It may be tough to understand at first, but
I'm sure there's a bunch of tutorials out there that explain.
Yeah, there's a
quite
lot of
clearly,
tutorials.
So it's quite easy to use once you figure it out. And also I think so if you really want to try out recording and you want a DAW,
you're gonna go past the best DAW ever. A collaborative DAW you don't even have to download. Danish.
gosh. Oh yeah, how can I forget? BandLab.
BandLab by Google. Amazing stuff.
Rate 100. But I would use Reaper still.
Yeah, Reaper is a more solid option, but if you want to collaborate with others, like let's say vocalists, you're trying to figure out harmonies. I'm sure you must have done it sometime.
Yeah, I have. Trust me, experience is splendid.
Yeah, so BandLab is helpful for vocalists when you're trying to collaborate, trying to find out harmonies, figure out your parts, sorting that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you can slap a backing track in there and just record your parts over it.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
It's quite straightforward also. Yeah. Anyways, I think we covered the DAWs.
Yeah.
So now
basic
let's
stuff.
move on to the most important part of this, your recording equipment.
Yeah, your equipment.
So-
I'll start with the vocalists again.
Yeah, of course. Always start with the vocalists. Duh.
Hey! My chair's gone.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on, we will talk about the mic.
Mics in general are like dynamic or condenser. There's more mics like ribbon mics as well, but that's too complicated. So we'll stick to dynamic and condenser. Dynamic mics are usually those mics that you hear people use on live stages, the handheld ones. They're very directional and straightforward, so they're great use for live stuff. But if you're recording for studio stuff, maybe at home or in a studio, I would recommend a condenser mic for vocals. Has much better quality, picks up your sound much better as well. You're a vocalist, what do you use?
I use an XLR mic.
So nothing we just spoke about.
Yeah, exactly. So, what's the difference between USB and XLR mics?
A USB mic is just, it's quite straightforward. It's a
Literally
mic,
with
USB.
USB cable.
Yeah,
What
goes
type?
directly into your laptop.
It's just a USB cable.
It's just a USB, yeah, it's just a
Roger
USB
that.
cable.
Roger that.
For XLR mics, you need to have an audio interface along with it,
And
which
an
we'll
XLR
cover
cable.
shortly,
An XLR cable too.
and an XLR cable.
Yeah.
But some good mics that I would recommend or that we would recommend are the Audio-Technica 802035.
Which is a USB mic, right?
Yeah, it's a USB mic. It is quite well known as well.
I think Audio-Technica is quite well used in MV.
Yeah, they've
as
got the
well.
802020 as well, which is also another thing we use quite often.
Mhm.
It's like an industry standard basic beginner vocalist mic.
Is that a USB mic too?
No, the 2020 is an XLR one. I use that myself.
So-
Quite nice.
Pretty good. Yeah, I think
Yeah, some
Think
other
so.
stuff like a pop filter,
pop filter.
maybe. Pop
Well,
filters help.
Yeah, pop filter is something you usually fix onto your mic stands and something you put in front of your mics when you record. If you don't have pop filters, I think, fun fact, you can actually use a pencil and put it in front of your mouth and sing because it achieves the same effect.
I had no idea.
I
Is
mean,
that a
yeah,
thing?
I didn't know that. I just found out today. I just read it off a Reddit post.
Obviously, you read it off a Reddit post.
But yeah, so there you have it. So you mentioned something about an audio interface. So what is the purpose of that? audio
Before that, let me tell about our MV studio right here. We use only the finest of mics, a Neumann AI87. I'm a bit of a tech nerd myself with all
Okay.
this music stuff. Love that. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Okay, nerd. Let's move on to the audio interface. Alright, so we're back and we're talking about audio interfaces. So,
Yep.
Dhruv, what does an audio interface do essentially?
Okay, in the simplest of terms, it takes your audio signal, converts it to an electronic signal that goes into your laptop, which you can work on, and then it does vice versa so you can hear yourself. That's the simplest way to explain an audio interface.
And I also noticed that like when you use XLR mics, there's this button which says 48 volts. What's that, Roof?
That's phantom power.
Oh.
So some condenser mics require an extra power source of sorts, which helps it pick up stuff better, I think.
So I've been using a mic without knowing how it actually works this whole time.
Great, good job, Dan. Good
Well,
job.
you learn something new every day. I learned something. Hope you're learning too. So,
It's terrible.
anyways, yeah, I think we covered microphones, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
now
about it.
Let's go on to instrumentals.
For instrumentalists, I'd say just an audio interface. That's about it. Yeah, an audio interface, or if you're a keyboardist with like a digital piano, then I don't think you need an audio interface. You can record via MIDI, which is like electronic signals, with one cable. That's it. I think it's called a USB type B cable. It's quite nice, quite easy to use as well.
B for ball.
Okay,
Yeah.
but for real, instrumentalists just need an audio interface. But one thing you need to remember as a guitarist or a bassist is if you're using directly an audio interface, then you will need to add an amp simulator in the recording. So like in post-production.
So how do you acquire that?
You just
Is it in the software or you have to?
yeah, I think there's a bunch of free softwares available.
Plugins, right?
Yeah, a lot of plugins.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, remember to add an amp simulator. Without that, it won't sound as nice.
Speaking of audio interfaces, so what audio interface do you use, Mr. Drew?
Similar to many people in MV, I use a Focusrite Scarlett.
We love us a good Focusrite Scarlett
Yeah,
audio
it's
interface. I think most of us are using it. I'm using one for myself too.
yeah, a lot of people use it. It's quite easy to use, very basic. It's one we're using to record this podcast as well.
It's quite efficient, I might say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's better options available, like we do in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
It's an Apollo 8, I think.
Apollo.
Quite nice, but
8i.
like very high end. No one needs to get that. It's only for recording
It's really
studios.
expensive. If you might have to sell
It's like a bunch
a
of
bunch of organs.
it's like 30 to 16 inputs. Yeah, no one needs that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's what we use over here. So MV Studios, a fun place to be.
All
What
right.
else?
So
What else do we
that's audio interfaces, right?
Mhm.
So, like, what's the last part?
I think just give them tips on how to use the stuff.
Yeah, I think we covered most on the hardware side. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, do you have any tips for recording?
I'd say the thing that's helped me the most and what
It comes from your own experience, right? In recording,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I'd say is just record as if you're playing live. Never think of yourself as you're recording in a studio so you can afford to make mistakes. Yeah, just record.
I think most of the
Pretend as if
time-
you're live.
Most of the time, try to get the best take out of your recording sessions because it makes the jobs of your producer or your
Or it
production phase, if you're doing your own production, easier.
saves their life.
So yeah, definitely look at your best takes.
Yeah, it
And
saves
also
your life.
remember to take breaks because most of the time you may feel like it's not great, right? And you
Mhm.
want to keep on trying, but breaks are important as well. So remember to stop, take a breather, come back with proper mindset,
Yeah.
and then start recording once again.
Especially
right?
for vocalists, right? Have you ever had fatigue of sorts?
Yes, because I think to share a bit more how I record at home, I
Mhm.
usually lock myself up in a room with no fan or aircon, so it gets pretty
Ouch.
hot and
Ouch.
it's quite uncomfortable. So you have to definitely take breaks in between.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes if I'm feeling it, I'll just go ham, just keep recording until I'm sweating like mad.
Yeah, it's all up to you at your own pace.
So yeah, also I think one thing to add for vocalists, I think this one is more of a technique kind of tip. I think learn how to position yourself better, because like especially in your recordings, it gets obvious lah. Like there are parts where you are going to like belt, right? So like that's an example. So you have to take like maybe a step back from the mic. Yeah, when it comes to recording, so your mic doesn't peak. You know what's peaking?
Yeah.
You want to show them what's peaking?
Sure.
No, I'm kidding. No, that's an example of peaking. Yeah. So don't do that. So yeah.
Can we leave the actual audio in, like the peaking audio?
You can see it's peaking. But yeah.
Another you want to scream into the mic?
No. Yeah, I think that's one advice I have for recording vocals.
Yeah. I think for instrumentalists, just do the one thing I said. Record like you're playing live.
Yeah.
Because that's the end goal eventually.
About drums, right?
Oh, for drummers, something interesting is you may be recording on an electronic drum kit, but don't get used to it.
Yeah.
Because in live performances or on stages, you're going to use an acoustic drum kit, so you really need to have the touch right.
So imagine like what you said earlier, play like you're playing live in your recordings as well. So for drummers, you go the extra mile and actually use real drums instead of electronic drums. So yeah, I think
quite a content heavy episode. I'd say.
You guys are probably asleep by now, but thank you for coming to this Blackboard Collaborative Ultra lecture.
What are you saying? But yeah, this is like basically a lecture, our first VOXIFY lecture.
I hope you guys are enlightened, because we are. I think we learned a lot of things today.
Did y'all learn something, studio audience?
Yeah, they're giving up thumbs up. So
we're not alone.
There's only...
We have friends.
Yes. Anyways, I think that sums it up for today's episode.
Yeah, episode 2 done.
Thank you guys for watching. Do remember to leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notice so that you're updated of our uploads on Soundscape Sundays and MV Unwind as well. So yeah, tune in for the next episode where we talk about writing a song.
Dragons and wizards, writing a song in yes.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Outro.